I neglected to put the word wicked, W-I-C-K-E-D, in that collection there because it belongs there. Wick, ed. Same etymology root as Wick and Wicca and wizard, witch. Interlocked phonetically and meaningfully, purposefully, with wisdom, and all words themselves, words or verbs. The vibration is the beginning of anything relating to sound. And that is what speech, spoken and written language, is related to and starts with. It has as its foundation, its cornerstone, primary building block is sound. Vibration of words. That's what the WB and W and V and all this stuff is referencing esoterically. Movement. Vibration, frequency, music, the universe, the multiverse. It's both. Got news for you. It's yang and yin. It's not either or. It's both and. Man plans and God laughs. In the centuries before its settlement, you know what? Light is no good for that today, is it? Is it gonna, can I get it to focus enough? Yeah, there we go. I just had to do that, I guess. That's right. It's very similar to with when you put the camera on your computer monitor, how if you put the camera on a dark screen, it'll refocus and then you can go back to the bright screen, albeit with the stupid ass fucking lines, you know what I'm talking about. And remind me please, before we go on the field trip to Old Sturbridge Village and we travel back to the 19th century, I think it's the mid to late 19th century, if I remember correctly. Make sure that you remind me to go to pick up more edibles. I'm almost out of gummies there, which kind of, and I know there's probably fucking gelatin in them. In the centuries before its settlement by white men, among the most characteristic and pleasing features of the floor of this valley and of the stream banks on its slopes were the forest and groves of great beech trees, with their silver bark and their light graceful foliage turning gold in the fall. They were surely as lovely as any forests that ever grew on earth. I think so because I have seen their diminished descendants, which have returned to stand in the wasted places that we have so quickly misused and given up. But those old forests are all gone. We will never know them as they were. We have driven them beyond the reach of our minds, only a vague hint of their presence, returning to haunt us as though in dreams. A fugitive rumor of the nobility and beauty and abundance of the squandered maidenhood of our world, so that, do what we will never quite be satisfied ever again to be here. The country as we have made it, by the pretense that we can do without it, as soon as we have completed its metamorphosis into cash, no longer holds even the possibility of such forests, for the topsoil that they made and stood upon like children, piling up and trampling underfoot the fallen leaves, is no longer there. There is an ominous, perhaps a fatal, presumptuousness in living in a place by the imposition on it of one's own ideas and wishes. And that is the way we white people have lived in America throughout our history. And it is the way our history now teaches us to live here. Surely there could be a more indigenous life than we have. There could be a consciousness that would establish itself on a place by understanding its nature and learning what is potential in it. A man ought to study the wilderness of a place before applying to it the ways he learned in another place. Thousands of acres of hill land here and in the rest of the country were wasted by a system of agriculture that was fundamentally alien to it. For more than a century here, the steepest hillsides were farmed by my forefathers and their neighbors as if they were flat, and as if this was not a country of heavy rains. We haven't yet, in any meaningful sense, arrived in these places that we declare we own. We undertook the privilege. Did you just hear that? We haven't yet, in any meaningful sense, arrived in these places that we declare our own. We undertook the privilege of the virgin abundance of this land without any awareness at all that we undertook at the same time a responsibility toward it. That responsibility has never yet impressed itself upon our character. Its absence in us is signified on the land by scars. Until we understand what the land is, we are at odds with everything we touch. And to come to that understanding, it is necessary, even now, to leave the regions of our conquest, the cleared fields, the towns and cities, the highways, and re-enter the woods. For only there can a man encounter the silence and the darkness of his own absence. Only in this silence and darkness can he recover the sense of the world's longevity, of its ability to thrive without him, of his inferiority to it, and his dependence on it. Perhaps then, having heard that silence and seen that darkness, he will grow humble before the place and begin to take it in, to learn from it what it is. As its sounds come into his hearing, and its lights and colors come into his vision, and its odors come into his nostrils, then he may come into its presence as he never has before, and he will arrive in his place and will want to remain. His life will grow out of the ground like the other lives of the place and take its place among them. He will be with them, neither ignorant of them nor indifferent to them nor against them, and so at last he will grow to be native born. That is, he must re-enter the silence and the darkness and be born again. One winter night, nearly 20 years ago, I was in the woods with the coon hunters, and we were walking toward the dogs, who had moved out to the point of the bluff where the valley of the Cane Run enters the valley of the river. The footing was difficult, and one of the hunters was having trouble with his lantern. The flame would run up and smoke the globe so that the light it gave obscured more than it illuminated, an obstacle between his eyes and the path. At last he cursed it and flung it down into a hollow. Its little light went looping down through the trees and disappeared, and there was a distant tinkle of glass as the globe shattered. After that he saw better and went along the bluff easier than before, and lighter too. Not long ago, walking up there, I came across his old lantern lying rusted in the crease of the hill, half burned already in the siftings of the slope as I let it lie. But I've kept the memory that it renewed. I have made it one of my myths of the hill. It has come to be truer to me it has come to be truer to me now than it was then. For I have turned aside from much that I knew, and have given up much that went before. What will not bring me more certainly than before to where I am is of no use to me. I have stepped out of the clearing into the woods. I have thrown away my lantern, and I can see the dark. In the land of gods and monsters, I was an angel, living in the garden of evil. Confused, fucked up, doing whatever I needed. You've got that medicine I need. Emerald City. Fuck yeah, give it to me. This is heaven, what I really want is innocence lost. The owls are not what they seem. We live inside a dream. We are the imaginations of ourselves. We all invent ourselves. Fuck yeah, give it to me. This is heaven. All I really want is ignorance lost. Ignore ants. So, this was today's CRS. That was the 22nd over here, where we had on 3/22/22, March 22nd, 2022, the purchase was at 7:22 a.m. Just so happened to be when I stepped up to use the self-checkout because of the one cashier they have there, this woman named Ruth, who's retiring at the end of the... Sorry, probably shouldn't have said her name, but I don't know. At least I didn't say her last name. I don't know what her last name is. I don't give a shit. But she's just really this like hostile elder woman who can't really walk well and just is clearly very unhappy and can't stand anyone who's not, unfortunately. Oh yeah, and that's just a coincidence too that number is the time right now. In an hour. An hour slow, right? I think it's an hour. I think my computer is slow now in time. Or is it maybe it's at the right time now? But 138 is the gematria, ordinal English gematria value of Donald Trump. And TELLAVISION. And OUROBOROS. So here's today's CRS at on 3/24/2022 at 7:55 at store 481, like Route 148 at the base of St. Anne's, and 148 is the number value of time traveler Walter Bishop and Donald J. Trump and the art of the deal. Well, observe this synchronicity here. Let me pick it out again because it's more subtle than the other one. It has this. So the 324 in the date, 234. And then there's a 567 somewhere that factors in the 75. Oh, that's the time down there, 756. So it has the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 connection there, and then the 2376 total is significant to me and really to everyone. Because all of the numbers are. And your life is a giant signifier, giant sign pointing past itself. Your life itself is a sign. And all signs within that life are little signs making up a giant sign that points again past itself to the eternal, to what's outside of it. Oh, and I'll show you this. This will have to be for later because or maybe we can have enough time left here in the memory to the video to extend it beyond 2116, but I have 2116 is when it's going to stop here. So stand, Three Little Birds, Under the Sycamore Trees, The Power of Love, and My Sweet Lord. 5-song playlist. that I want to do. I'll just save that for the next